The best part about running news lately is that there's been a little bit of everything. If you want track, we've got Grand Slam and Diamond League both in full swing. If you want roads, we've got record-setting marathon majors and U.S. road circuit. If you want shenanigans and controversy, well, we've got that too.
The latest from the world of running brought to you by AtoZrunning. I'm Andy.
And I'm Zach, and if we told you only one of the distance slam winners from the first Grand Slam track meet would do it again at the second one, who would you guess? And do you remember who the slam winners were? I'll give you some reminders. For the women's short distance, it was Ethiopian Deribe Welteji. For the men's short distance, it was Kenyan Emmanuel Wanyonyi. For the women's long distance, it was Ethiopian Ejgayehu Taye. And for the men's long distance, it was American Grant Fisher. And I just did all that by memory, by the way.
I'm impressed.
We should all be very impressed with Zach's remembering 4 names. So which one? Do you have a guess?
I already know because I watched them. I watched the races.
I just didn't know if you would actually remember.
Like super into it.
Well, it's been very exciting. There's a lot to be into. Be sure, by the way, to stick around to the end of the episode. You may not know this yet. Whenever we do running news episodes, we end the episode with an AI chatbot trivia segment where we ask ChatGPT to give us trivia questions about some topic and see if we can guess the correct answer. And we're keeping score. And the score is not great.
It's not great.
We're not really all that great at random trivia questions. But in our defense, the previous few that we did were all on the Boston Marathon, and it was a very obscure question.
It was. We've heard from others that they're also tracking along about the amount that we got right. So, and these are like running people. So,
right.
Yeah.
So Zach has 4 points right now, and Andy has 3. So it's a
very
very
it's that
tight
many?
race.
I feel like we had fewer than that.
No, because we've gotten 1 or 2 right at every segment, and we always do 3 questions. And we have at least one listener who has reported more than 1 point as well.
Okay.
And that's the only listener that we've heard from who says with honesty that they have more than 1 point. So I'm curious if anyone else does.
Well, this week the trivia will be about Eliud Kipchoge. And I didn't know that before we started airing this episode.
So you can't do some research.
I couldn't do any research.
Because what you could do is you could just ask your AI to give you like all the facts about Eliud Kipchoge, and that would not be fair.
Right. So here we are. I'm surprised again. Had no idea this is what we were going to do.
Well, we didn't decide it until we started talking about it, because I had a different idea in mind, but then I was like, oh, maybe we should actually do something here that's relevant to one of our topics we're covering today.
That we haven't looked up in a while.
And an individual that many of you are familiar with, but may not necessarily know some of the interesting tidbits about.
Absolutely.
But this also could be one of those days when we get extra points. I'm kind of hoping we can know more answers.
I hope so too. I bet you will.
They are multiple choice questions. In all fairness, everyone has a 25% chance of just guessing it correctly. We just aren't that great at guessing correctly so far on the ones we don't know.
Well, let's kick things off here with the London Marathon results.
So you might guess that we haven't shared some running news updates recently enough to include London Marathon. So here's our take. You probably already know what happened. And if you don't, now you're going to find out. And that's exciting. But also, we wanted to reflect a little bit on what's significant about the results this year. So let's start with the men's race. One of the most star-studded majors fields in quite some time. We have the likes of Olympic champions, 2 of them, in fact, in this race. Tamirat Tola, who won the most recent Olympic Games. Eliud Kipchoge, who won the 2 before that. Now, granted, everyone's like, Kipchoge's washed out, he's old. Well, he still runs really well.
Yeah.
He's still very fast, and he's still competitive. It's true he has not won a race in a while now, one of the majors. But it's only been a couple of years at most since he won a majors. That's not that bad. So anyway, we've also got recent world record holders, Kipchoge, namely, and Jacob Kiplimo, who from Uganda is making his marathon debut in London, made his marathon debut, but holds currently the world half marathon record, which was taken away from him recently, and then he took back with decisive results. It was an incredible run. So there's that going on here. And then you've also got heavy hitters like Alexander Mutiso, who is no stranger to majors podiums, multiple majors podiums. Abdi Nagier, who has an Olympic medal and some significant finishes at the majors. So we've got an incredible field in the men's race. And that makes a race like this more unpredictable, exciting and unpredictable. And so you get the situation where people are like, I don't really know could Jacob Kiplimo run a world record in his debut? It's possible. He's run faster than anyone else at half marathon by a lot, but he didn't. And then the spoiler. And then the question becomes, well, who would have the gumption to race a field like this and make it a tough race? And the answer, of course, then became the unexpected. Although, if you've been paying attention to his career, he wouldn't be that unexpected. Because while Tamarat Tola has the most recent, significant victory, winning the Olympic title, new on the scene is Sebastian Sawe of Kenya, who only ran his first marathon in December and yet ran the second fastest debut ever. Do you know who has the fastest debut?
Kelvin Kiptum.
Yes. Which he did at London. Did he? No. He did his debut in Valencia or something.
Because it was his second or something that he was so close to getting the sub 2 and getting the
was that his second
record?
Second or his third? Yeah.
I don't know. It was close.
We're going to talk a lot about this comparison here because it becomes terribly relevant. But Sebastian Sawe, in his second marathon ever in a star-studded field, did steal the show. And here's what he did. Around mile 20, he dropped the hammer. They think he might have run about a 4:16 mile. Now, those are always unofficial because they don't have actual timing mats mile to mile. But 4:16, Andy.
That is the definition of decisive.
At mile 20.
I want to break these people. I don't want to run with them anymore. I am breaking away.
That 5K from 30 to 35K in the race was 13:56. He ran what would be a respectable 5K time, on the track, 5,000 meter time, in 30 to 35K of his marathon. And then proceeded to stay strong. He was not accelerating anymore after that. But he didn't need to because he had just broken everyone decisively. I can't actually recall exactly how much he won by, but his time of 2:02:27 was the second fastest time ever run on London's course. Once again, second to who? Kelvin Kiptum. So this comparison becomes interesting. Sawe debuted only, it wasn't quite as fast as Kiptum's debut, but still faster than anyone else. Sawe, in his only second marathon, which is about what Kiptum did at London, ran the second fastest time on London's course and won decisively. I think Sawe won by 70 seconds. Kiptum won by 3 minutes. But he didn't have the field that Sawe had. Sawe was running against a more competitive group. So that comparison is interesting. People have been wondering if there's more to talk about comparing those two. So then you get to the rest of the field. And it was, in fact, in his debut, Jacob Kiplimo for second place when he ran 2:03:27. Also a very respectable debut marathon.
Yeah. Seriously, though, I guess I didn't realize that he placed so high up.
Second.
Wow.
He ran 2:03 and change.
I think maybe because I just expected to see him more on TV.
Well, and people just take for granted because Kiplimo is just always in the race. And he runs track in the Olympic Games and he wins medals, and then he breaks world marathon or world half marathon records and wins world half marathon championships. And so you see him in a race and you just think, yeah, it's natural to see him up there. But this was the first time that he'd ever
debut. Incredible.
So, very successful. Behind him was Alexander Mutiso, Nagier, then Tola, then Kipchoge in sixth. And still running pretty quick times, 2:04 to 2:06 range for those four. So a very strong setup and a very strong finish. And now everyone's just wondering, okay, so what happens when Sebastian Sawe and John Career go head-to-head? because those two are hot right now.
Yeah.
Career winning Boston and then Chicago before that. Yes, that would be an interesting day. They also both won these recent races in about the exact same way. Right around mile 20, dropped a big hammer. Just so happened that Career was in hills when he did it, so he wasn't quite as fast, but we'll see.
Yeah. I love to see it, because if someone's just way out in front, it's not nearly as fun, because you know who's going to win. So I think it's fun to have a lot of respectable competitors in the same era.
Speaking about someone who's way out in front.
Yeah.
Or two someones at least. The women's race.
But they weren't actually way out in front. Are you talking about the withdraws?
No.
Oh, well, there were a couple late withdraws that you would expect to be out in front. Ruth Chepngetich, our world record holder on the women's side, and Perez Chepchirchir.
And so that actually kind of opened up the game quite a bit more,
so, yeah.
Especially with Chepngetich coming off the Chicago world record. But more than that, it also thinned the ranks of the upper echelon in the race. So when the Pacers went out at a fast pace in the start, which they were planning to do, there's only 3 people that went with them. And so from like mile 3 on, only 3 people were in the race. Actually, not even that. Sifan Hassan started drifting off those leaders, that lead pace, at about mile 3. Or no, more like mile 7. And so that being the case, it was really a 2-person race the entire time, which would be exhausting.
That is exhausting. I just want to, this is a random thought that came into my head, but I love opportunities to tie in what's going on in the world of running with our own running. Sifan Hassan, there is no doubt that she could have run more of the race with that top group. But she ran her own effort, knowing that that would have been too fast for her for the day. She didn't want to run a 10K. She didn't want to run a half marathon. She wanted to run a marathon. So I think it's important to note that someone like Sifan Hassan could have held on to the leaders and overexerted herself in order to do so. We don't want to tie ourselves to one goal or another at the expense of not getting to complete it at all.
Sure. And there's things like money on the line. And like if you got to drop out when you could have finished 3rd, you're losing a lot in that moment. So yes, I would agree with that. There's actually more background to Sifan Hassan. I dug deep for this one to understand if there's more of an explanation here, because Sifan Hassan is a competitor, a fierce competitor. And so she will put herself in the pain cave far deeper and far longer than many other people. And you see it in the way she executes races.
She talks about it, actually.
She talks about it.
I'm crazy.
Right? Remember when she did 4 events at the last Olympics, ending with the marathon that she won?
She's like, what's wrong with me?
What? So this is what's crazy. So Sifan Hassan did not look like her normal competitive self in this race at all. She ran well. She still finished 3rd, spoiler alert. She almost caught, who was second? Jep Koske, spoiler alert. And so Sifan Hassan still ran well. But
she wouldn't have if she would have clung on at mile 3, most likely.
Well, the reason she almost caught Joycelyn Jepkoske is because at mile 24, who would go on to win the race, Tigist Josefa, who, as you recall, was the previous world record holder before Chepngetich, Tigist Josefa started accelerating at mile 24 on what was already a pretty hot pace, and Jepkoske broke off right away. But didn't just break off. She started running almost 1.5 minutes per mile slower for the rest of the race, and that's why Hassan almost caught her, because she was slowing down so much that Hassan, just by running evenly, almost actually ended up second. Well, here's the background. Sifan Hassan did that crazy 4 event. What's it called? It's called a double. It's called a triple. What is it? A quadruple? Quad? She did a quadruple at the Olympics. Had to work my way up to that one. Sorry. And then proceeded to take 4 months off of running. And here's what it amounts to. She was describing this in an interview. She said, I took 4 months off of running because that's just what my body needed. She's like, I did the crazy triple. If you recall, she did the triple at the previous Olympics. And it really, or maybe it was a World Championships, whenever she did that triple most recently. Mm-hmm. And she said it really just beat her up a lot. And she did not take enough time off. And then she had a really difficult time getting back into competitive racing. And she kept having like ups and downs and ups and downs. So this time she's like, I'm just going to take the time until my body's ready. And it was 4 months. Like the upper echelon professional runner just took 4 months off. And I think that's just one more piece of evidence as to why Sifan Hassan is the GOAT.
Yeah. She's willing to listen to her body.
This is why she is so incredible. She is on a different plane than other runners. She's doing things that other people wouldn't be willing to do on both ends of the spectrum, taking significant amount of time off just because she needs it. She was not injured. It was not an injury thing. She just knew her body needed the rest. And then she also does the craziest stuff to see if she can in competition. So I think it's just incredible.
I do too. I have a lot of respect for Sifan Hassan.
I dare you to disagree with us about Sifan Hassan. Is she the greatest female distance runner of all time? Yes. Prove me wrong. Now,
because of variety.
Well, yeah. I'm not saying she's the greatest of a single event, because you could make many arguments. She doesn't have any world records currently. She has broken some, but she hasn't held them. And she's close to the fastest in most of everything. But at the same token, she's won gold medals, but she doesn't win every gold medal. No.
It's amazing how many medals she'll win.
She does have a lot of medals. That might be the way you decide who's the greatest distance runner. Who has the most quantity-wise of medals? She does. But that's not the point. The point is of what she has done and demonstrated things that no one else even has tried. Nobody. And so that's what's so incredible. Now, I'm just fanboying Sifan Hassan here,
yes,
I guess.
You are.
Which is okay because she deserves it. So this is what ends up happening then, right? She takes 4 months off of running. She can't get back into shape quickly. Like, she's taking her time. She's training smartly. And she gets to this race, and she knows she is not ready to run 2:12 pace, which is what they were doing in the first 5K of the race. She knows she's not ready to run 2:12 pace. So she hangs in for a bit, and she decides, yeah, this is too hot. This is not wise. And so she eases up. And she reaps the benefits by finishing third, by making some money, by also demonstrating that she has that kind of poise, that kind of wisdom in race decision making. Very cool. But she didn't win. Let's talk about Tigist Assefa, who did win.
Talk about Assefa.
So she won in just an incredible execution. Very fast first half. I can't remember exactly what the pace was in the first half. It's something like 2:13 pace. And that's incredible. But they were struggling in the later stages. They all said that they could feel the heat. It wasn't hot. It was like 60s. But in a marathon, when you're running your guts out, that feels warm. Ask us how we know. We actually had runners in this race who said that felt warm. But she then proceeded to, in the worst moments of the race, you've run a marathon, you know what we're talking about. Mile 24 is just about you want to be dead more than running. And that's when she put down the hammer. Now, here's the trick. She may have known that she needed a little extra, not just to win the race. Joycelyn Jepkoski was still with her at that point. Granted, she died hard after that, but she wasn't dying yet. But Assefa, if she could accelerate just a little bit, had two things going for her. First, turns out London Marathon pays an additional bonus if you can run under 2:16, which is not easy. Remember the course record there set by Paula Radcliffe. She still holds the course record of 2:15.25, and so, or 20 something. And so, given the talent of marathoners in today's age, and they still haven't bested Paula Radcliffe's course record, so running under 2:16 is no small thing there. More than that, not more than that, but likewise, there's also an additional bonus if she can break the women's only world record. And because London is a women's only start, it counts for that, meaning they're not going to be like catching men as they go.
Or have male pacers.
And so as a consequence, you have to run quite a bit more of it alone in that context, Assefa did. And so the women's only world record comes with another cash bonus. So by winning this race in a time of 2:15.50, you know it, she did hit it, she made $305,000.
Good for her. She deserves it. I will mention that it being a women's only race, she ran it in such a way that she did make her competitor, Jepkoski, upset because
Jepkoski led
like the whole race.
Pretty much the entire race.
And she was not happy about it.
So Asefa actually did have a pacer. It just
right?
wasn't by design.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you do in that scenario.
Yeah.
Because you could slow down and the other person just might keep slowing down too. And then you get to the point where you're just jogging and nobody really wants to do that. However,
then guess who would win? Sifan Hassan.
Well, that's
In
the other
kick.
thing, right? Don't let Sifan Hassan catch up to you.
Because she will win in the kick most likely.
But you have to assume, like, Asefa was clearly motivated to run fast. That's why they had the Pacers running 2:12 pace at the start. They did have Pacers.
Oh.
The Pacers didn't even make it halfway.
Were they female pacers then?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because it wouldn't count for women's only if
Right.
they were male pacers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the core of it. Asefa kind of took advantage of her competitors' willingness.
But I don't know if that's wrong.
No, it's not wrong.
It's really tricky, the whole like sharing the lead thing. I think that in a situation like this, when so much of your livelihood is on the line, it's pretty tricky to expect that somebody would switch the lead. However, it's a little bit different when you're like running a marathon with other people and you all have the goal of like doing the best you can and you kind of cycle through the people. It's more of a team sort of feel as an average runner than it is when it's like you're going to make 305,000 versus 20,000.
I mean, yes. Yes. I don't know. So the point is it's a race and you just win. You do whatever you have to win within the rules. And I do not support an environment where you start making like these weird technical rules about whether you can run behind another runner for a certain amount of the race or something. You know how they have like the draft legal stuff with biking and everything? It makes a significant difference in cycling, much more than running, even though running does matter. But in the same token, trying to regulate that, not a good idea. It takes away the competitive dynamic of the experience, like people being able to make whatever choice they want to make in the race.
Am I right, though, in remembering that Jip Kosgei did take a surge and, like, took a lead at one point? So I think if you do that, you can't expect that someone's going to switch it because you made a move trying to disrupt their race. You know, a surge is here and there and all of that. So I think that there is also a dynamic if you look at it in that regard. It's not like they were all, like, clumped up and it stayed the same and they made her take the lead. No, I think there was a surge there. I could be wrong. But I do like the idea of sharing because that's kind of like how I enjoy running. I like to run in a collaborative sort of way. And so I do understand why people get upset about that, but it is a race. Like
I remember distinctly talking with a few runners in my early post-college days about what they were calling dirty, underhanded race tactics. And I thought to myself, no, you just do whatever it takes to win. But
there are ethics. So I want people to know because I don't want people to have the perception that you're like some underhanded, dirty guy.
No, but I mean, like, so examples of this include things like if someone is not right next to you, you can't encroach in someone's space. But let's say they're right behind you, they're starting to try to pass you, and you just edge them over, and they happen to run into a table of drinks. Things like that.
Dirty. I agree with your friends.
Listen, if you can't get past me, and I can cut off your line of access, and it's not against the rules, well, you figure it out, not me. That's not my responsibility.
Okay, you're going to have a lot of mad listeners here. Okay,
I'm kind of joking. I'm not going to deliberately.
He doesn't do this. I don't know why you say things like this. And
I
people
did in
think
high school.
Oh, my word. I had a girl in cross country snap a branch in my face.
She probably didn't do it on purpose.
Maybe not. But it hurt.
Well, the other side of this that I always wonder about is we are noticing a trend in the distance running dynamic currently that seems to be some kind of historical, cultural animosity between Kenyans and Ethiopians. Because when it comes down to race tactic, you will notice a lot of the more underhanded things that appear to happen seem to be between Kenyans and Ethiopians. And so, and this is not uncommon. This has been going on for some time. Not necessarily specifically
like
these
maybe
two nations,
like
but
Ingebrigtsen versus
well,
the Brits.
So like there's personal dynamics, right? And then there's also like you seem to see if Ethiopians are in a race together, they work together. Country people, right? You notice that. They talk to each other. It's very common. If Kenyans are in a race together, they seem to work together. But Kenyans and Ethiopians very rarely seem to work together. And I do not think that is by accident. I think there is some amount of a deliberate, like, I'm not going to help you because you're not my teammate.
Yeah.
But I'll help my teammate. Mm-hmm. So there's some amount of that appears to be happening on the track, on the roads, and otherwise. So I speculate when you see a situation like this, a Kenyan and an Ethiopian, you wonder if it would have been different if they were from the same country or if they were just two different people. You know, is it personal, right? So I don't know. In any event, it was interesting. But we had some success behind the podium as well. And so let's jump back to 7th place because Sofia Yaremchuk of Italy set a new Italian national record, running 2:23:14. Very exciting. And in 8th place, Eilish McColgan of Great Britain, or via Scotland, ran her debut marathon finally. Because we recall 2 years ago.
She was injured, right?
2 years ago she was going to do it, but she was injured.
Yeah.
Well, her main goal was to beat her mother's personal best, which is also the Scottish record. And she did.
She did.
In her debut, she ran 2:24:25.
I love that mother-daughter relationship. They seem to talk a lot about it. There's a good amount of like respect, legacy. I really enjoy seeing that kind of positive dynamic.
You do hope that it's thoroughly through and through positive as well.
Yeah, I mean, it really appears that way.
Not like the Ingebrigtsen family dynamic. We're not going to really talk about that on the show. That's not one of the shenanigans we plan to talk about, but they just finished the oral arguments. I don't know exactly how this trial works, but with the Ingebrigtsen brothers and their dad accusing him of various types of abuse and emotional trauma.
Yikes.
So they just finished that. I don't know actually the results. Maybe the results aren't in yet. Fun tidbit. Oh, no, we already said that. Okay, so as it goes, the women's race was exciting, but in a very different way than the men's race. Now, let's talk about Grand Slam Miami.
Yes. We've been loving the Grand Slam, and we've watched both of them so far. We're eager to continue to follow along because they are good races, and the dynamic of the two races that each athlete is required to run makes it very interesting because usually one of the events is their dominant race and the other is one that they don't race as much. And so it's been thrilling to see how different athletes fare when they're not in their strongest event.
That is a fact. We'll bring some attention to that here now that we're 2 installments in. 2 of 4. Recall there are going to be 4 total Grand Slam meets this year. So in Miami, let's give you just a quick reminder about the rules of Grand Slam. As Andy noted, 2 events. To win the prize money, you have to score the highest total points between your 2 events. And so you compete against the exact same group of people in both events, and the events are comparable. And so if you're a middle distance runner, it's an 800 and a 1500. If you're a long distance runner, it's a 3000 and a 5000, etc. But then they have things like, there's only 8 athletes total in the whole thing. So it's a very small race, very intimate. They pay 8 finishers. And so everyone gets prize money, even if you lose, which is quite exciting. Yes. First place is $100,000. Yes. And second is 50, third 30, and so on. Goes all the way down to 10,000 even for 8th place. And there are tiebreaker rules because if you tie in total points, then the next layer that they go to, the first tiebreaker, is whoever had the highest finish in any individual event. So if one of you finished second and third, and the other one finished first and fourth, which actually that wouldn't be a tie, but if they did, then the first place would make that person win. But if you tied in finishes as well, like one of you finished fifth in one race and fourth in the other, and then vice versa for the other things, so you both have fourth and fifth finishes, then they go to cumulative time. They add together your time from both events, and whoever had the fastest cumulative time wins the tiebreaker. And so far, no one has tied in cumulative time. But I actually don't know. That'd be really tough to do. It would be, but I don't know how they would settle that. They must just go down to thousandths of a second.
Yeah,
and just there's no way.
Just hoping for the best that it doesn't
Right?
happen.
I mean, it has, in the past in track and field, there has been a perfect tie before where you cannot distinguish down to the thousandths of second in the frame rates on the monitors. You cannot distinguish who won the race. But I don't know if it's happened more than like once or twice ever. So here we go. That's what you need to know about the event.
And they're using digital timing too, so I wonder if that helps.
I don't know. I'm assuming so because the athletes have chips. They wear them.
Yeah.
In weird
We saw
ways.
because one of the sprinters had hers fall out of her jersey.
Yeah.
And so she had to get it tucked back in.
That actually-
Interestingly, she had it on her back. I wonder if you get to choose where it is. Because if it were me, I'd put it like on my
As close
chest
to the
so that
finish
if I
line.
was like coming across.
That must be some kind of like backup dynamic. Like they must still have the cameras
Yeah.
to make sure.
Maybe it's for vital, like to see their heart rate or something. We have to find this out. We're
wouldn't-
going
it
to
wouldn't
investigate,
do that.
everybody. 'Cause
Yeah,
I would
okay.
like to know
What
what
are
the
they
situation is and why you wouldn't put it closer to where you would cross the finish line.
So let's talk about the events.
Yes.
Women's short distance, which was 1,500 meters, followed by 800 meters on 2 separate days. This time, the women did the 1,500 first. Last time they did it the opposite order. And remember here, we've got the weird dynamic of milers and 800-meter specialists. And the reason it's a weird dynamic is because milers typically do also run 800 meters, but 800-meter specialists almost never run miles. And so it seems unfair, right? It seems like it. And yet, maybe not that fair. Remember that the woman attempting to debunk this theory is Kenya's own Mary Mora, who, after a bad start to the event last time, didn't run the second race.
You told me why, but I can't
Like
remember.
illness or something.
Okay.
I don't recall exactly, but she did not run both of the races. So now it's kind of like a redemption attempt. See if she can bring it back here. But the first event, the 1,500 meters, being not her forte. As a matter of fact, she really is not a miler 800-meter runner. She's like an 800, 400-meter runner.
Yeah.
And so she did poorly. She was in last place, in eighth, by a lot. But she still came back the next day ready to do her premier event, and in fabulous fashion won the 800 on day 2. So she finishes 8th on day 1, first on day 2, and then the question becomes, is that enough to win? Because they favor first place immensely. You get way more points for first than you do for second, and then so on. Well, we'll find out. So keep in mind, she did that. But there were significant shufflings happening in the front places between the two events outside of Mary Mora's dramatic flip. One was USA's Nikki Hiltz, who has finished now near, the first event, Hiltz was second by not a lot. It was a very slim point victory for Welteji. And Welteji, coming back to try to defend her title, was unsuccessful, only finishing 4th overall. But it was a different Ethiopian this time, Frewani Hailu, who was not in the first meet, but now as a challenger showing up this time and in very strong fashion. Hailu's forte is kicking, which is also Hiltz's forte. And so it's moments like this where you kind of wonder, like, who's the best kicker on the day?
That's why track is so fun.
Right? So it came down to a final kick in the first event of the two, the 1,500, and it was, in fact, Frewani Hailu who had the gumption. And since Mary Mora won the 800 on day 2 as an 800 specialist, Hailu's third place finish in the 800 was good enough to take the grand prize.
So Hiltz was second in both of those.
Second in
runs.
both. And this is a testament to why finishing first matters so much in the individual races, because you get 4 more points for first than you do for second. And so Hailu's points were actually quite a bit higher than Hiltz's overall, even though Hailu had one finish better and one finish worse. So that's where you get you got to win it if you can win it, because you get so much of a boost. So there you go. In the women's short distance, it was Hailu, Hiltz, Mora. And this is interesting because Hailu, miler specialist, Hiltz, miler specialist. Mora, half miler specialist. She's an 800 meter specialist. But then after that, it was all milers except Shafiqua Maloney in 7th. So it was Welteji, Jessica Hull of Australia, Emily McKay of the United States, Shafiqua Maloney as mentioned, and Lucia Stafford there, also a miler. So then we have the men's short distance. And this one was wild. Wild. So the major upset in the first meet was Emmanuel Wanyanyi, the 800 meter specialist. He's like number 2 all time, winning the 1500 meters.
That was cool.
He won it over all these like Olympic medalist milers. Like really all of the Olympic medalists were here.
Well, no.
Yeah. No, all the most recent. All 3 of them.
Kerr was not there.
In the first, yes, he was. He just ran terribly.
Oh, really?
Yes,
I didn't even know he was there.
I know. Hocker, Naguse, and Kerr, the 3 Olympic medalists,
you're right,
were all here.
I just didn't even realize Kerr was in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
he showed up this time, though.
Well, Wanyanyi was a challenger in the last meet. That means that he's not one who's contracted to run the whole circuit. And so he did not show up this time. He wasn't part of it this time. But Kerr, who had a really rough day in the first Grand Slam meet, was on his A game this time. And he showed it by winning the 1500 meters out of the gate. Just very strong, closing speed, looked like his normal former champion self. And that was big. That was big because Josh Kerr is not the greatest 800 meter runner in this field by a long shot. As a matter of fact, you've got your Olympic champion, Marco Arap, here, who demonstrated in the first Grand Slam that he's going to win the 800 because he won it there, even over Emmanuel Wanyanyi. And yet again, if Marco Arap can run a little better in the 1500, no one's going to touch him in the next Grand Slam meet because he finished 7th in the 1500 and then came back to win the 800, but wasn't quite enough to beat Kerr's first place finish in the 1500 and fifth place finish in the 800. Kerr's like got to be sweating that whole 800, like just beat someone.
Of course he was. It was Miami. He was definitely sweating.
Oh, man.
But the thing that's really exciting is that they have to try in both events, no matter how they're doing, no matter how bad they feel their race is going, they have to stay mentally in it and hang because the difference between each place 10th on up is a significant amount of money. So the fact that Kerr gave it his all in that 8 and finished 5th, because it was really close.
It was
wild at the end. He won himself a significant amount of money.
$100,000. Come on. They asked him afterwards what he's going to do with the money, and he's just like, yeah, I'm just going to enjoy some time in Miami with my family and friends.
A bunch of his family came, I guess, from all over the place.
Well, you remember Kerr is British, where he's Scottish, but he lives in the United States, trains in the United States. His wife is, where's she from?
I don't know, but they did say that there was a group of people from somewhere else, and that might have been what they were referring to.
Yes,
I wasn't like dialed in to be paying attention about his
So some of his
life.
family members were there, some of her family members were there, so they're training people, so apparently they're just going to have a big old party afterward.
Yeah.
Which, can afford plenty of party with that race winnings. But here's the catch. Marco Arap, even though he only finished 7th in one of the events, was still enough to end up 2nd overall. Yep. And once more, the half milers are proving that it actually is not a guarantee for these milers to win these events, because Arap was in 2nd, and then it was Kethobogal Hangura, who's also a half miler. You probably haven't heard of him because he's only recently on the scene globally, and he finished 3rd. Mm-hmm. And then Yard Naguse took the 4th, so he made himself $25,000, not too bad. Peter Boll, another half miler in 5th, over Cole Hocker, the Olympic champion, who was 6th. And then Timothy Chariot, the legendary Kenyan miler, in 7th, and Shepo Shite, also a miler, in 8th. So the half milers really did the trick here this time.
Doesn't it get you excited that all of these amazing runners are doing the Grand Slam? I think that that was something that they invested a lot of energy in, promoting these star athletes, and I think it pays off because the races are so exciting when you have the best of the best that are coming together to do this, which is why the Diamond League is also so exciting to see because it's very exclusive.
Well, I hate to say it,
What?
But I'm having way more fun watching Grand Slam
Yeah?
than I ever have watching Diamond League.
I love to hear you say that because I think I agree too because of the dynamics of
Yes.
it, the actual intricacies of the two races and how the athlete has to run. And
We'll
I
talk.
love the hard. What? We'll talk about
We'll
it?
talk about
Okay.
the comparison.
All right.
We'll also talk because they're making a couple changes to the
Okay.
Grand Slam,
Oh, yeah.
to the next installment in Philadelphia. We got to get ourselves out to one of these.
I know.
So
I had a friend invite me, by the way, but it just
yeah,
didn't work
it
out.
Didn't work out. Yep. Let's talk about the women's long distance here. They say long distance. It's not. It's short long distance. 3,000, 5,000. But who wants to watch anything longer than that? No one.
Us watching the London Marathon.
So this one
Boston
actually,
Marathon.
they had to use a bunch of tiebreaker rules for the women's long distance. There was a lot of tying going on. We'll share just to what extent it was fun. Remember how these work. You know, you gotta go with whoever finished highest first, and then you go with cumulative time if that still is tied. So that's what happened here. The cumulative time tiebreaker had to happen. Kenya's Agnes Ngetich, recall from Kingston first meet when she just wanted to run fast. And unfortunately, Ejgaye Hutaye was very capable of running just as fast and then out kicking her, which she just did the whole time. And so that's frustrating.
Another example of a runner that was leading who was begging her fellow competitor to take the lead.
Yeah.
And they would not. So it's a common thing.
It is a common thing, but once again, I wonder about the Kenya-Ethiopia dynamic because that seems to happen a fair bit.
But also,
between these
if
two.
Agnes Ngetich decides to put the hurt on like that,
And then doesn't want to hold it.
exactly.
I know,
just feel
I
like there's
get
some
it.
discrepancy there.
Yeah, it's like, hey, listen, you have to lie in the bed you just made. That's all there is to it. You got to eat the cake that you baked. That's actually a poor example because cake is yummy, but beds are good too for sleeping and stuff. So Ngetich she just has one strategy. She just has one thing: just go run fast. And then she realizes late in the race she doesn't really like that she did it, but it's too late. That's happened every single time. So here she does it again. The 3,000 was first. I think the 3,000 was first. And Ngetich just wanted to run fast, and nobody else did. I think actually it was the 5,000 first. But anyway, she wanted to run fast. Nobody else did except for the young Ethiopian Medina Aissa.
Oh, yeah, Aissa.
Attempted to pull the same strategy as Taye, but wasn't quite as good of a kicker. And so Ngetich, her strategy paid off because she ends up beating Aissa in the kick and finishing first. And then back in third was Hairut Meshesha, who did not go with them in that hot pace. She finished around about 15 seconds behind. That's relevant, as you'll find out.
Is Mesesha the on runner?
No.
She's not on?
Nope. That's the other Ethiopian in the race.
Okay.
Yep. We'll get to that. That's Geber Slama.
Oh, it's like Emerson. Okay.
So they do that.
I know that.
Yes.
Runner, yes.
They do that in the 5,000. Ngetich wins. Aissa's second. Meshesha's in a distant third. And keep that in mind. Because then in the 3,000, Ngetich did not have quite the same burn to break people off. And it was a 3-woman race the entire time. And it was actually Meshesha with the strong kick. So after finishing third in the 5,000, she won the 3,000 over Ngetich. And Aissa was second again. So Aissa did the double second. And Ngetich finishes third. So now look at the tie. Ngetich has a first and a third. Meshesha has a third and a first. So you have to go to cumulative time. And would you know it, Negetich's crazy strategy of just running fast paid off because she beat Meshesha by so much time in the 5,000 that it was a guaranteed victory for her to make $100,000 in a tiebreaker.
I kind of love that the strategies played out differently in the two different races because it could just go to show you that if you are going to take that risk, it can pay off. And I'm sure that Ngetich is happy that she did it the second time, but that first time it burned her. She got burned by it because she had who was it on her tail? Aissa on her tail.
Yeah.
So,
well,
yeah.
So here you have it. I failed to mention with the women's short distance that are the other two ones. So
No, it was Taye.
no.
From the first race.
Oh, you're talking about the first one.
I'm talking
Sorry.
about the first lead.
Taye got the kick, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, true that. So far, we have no defending champions defending their title in the slam. Women's short distance, well, Teji won the first one, Hailu the second one. The men's short distance, Wanyanyi won the first one, but he wasn't even here. Kerr won the second one. Women's long distance now, Taye's not here, and so she can't defend her title. Nagetić wins in a crazy tiebreaker, and so now we have you know who we're going to talk about next. But let's cover those results here very quickly. In the women's side, Nagetić wins it, Mashesha, then Aisa, and then it was Janeth Chepngetich, Sige Gebrselassie, and Ainadis Mibratu, who all had a three-way tie for fourth, which came down to the first tiebreaker. But then in the first tiebreaker, Chepngetich and Gebrselassie still tied. So then you have to go down to the second tiebreaker, which is cumulative time again. And it was like 3 seconds difference. It was so close. And Gebrselasi's got to be thinking, why? Why didn't I just run a little faster in one of those events? Because 3 seconds would have got her an extra, how much money was the difference here? $20,000. What, an extra $8,000 or $5,000 or something.
Yep.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
So, sorry. All right. And then Nozomi Tanaka in 7th and Elise Cranny in 8th. Once again
Still
in a
making
tiebreaker.
money.
Tanaka and Cranny had to come down to a tiebreaker as well because they've tied in points. And making the money even if they're not winning the races. And that's kind of the point. We like it.
Well, with the way that Nagetić is running these races, it strings it out. So, unfortunately, early on, Tanaka and Cranny aren't going to be contending for the win in that event.
Yeah, they don't even try to.
Because it's so fast. They're not running it championship style. They're running it to...
Time trial is what they call
run
it. Time
hard.
trial racing. Just go as fast as you can. The men's long distance has been the exact opposite. As far apart as you can get. As a matter of fact, the men are running almost as slow as the women. Well, the women are not running slow. For women, they're running super fast. But for the men, they're running almost the same pace as the women in a couple of these events. And people hate it. They are so done with these men long distance races. So here's what happened. You've got now the 5,000, 3,000 reversed. So the men ran the 3,000 first this time, 5,000 second. And in the 3,000, Grant Fisher was content to do exactly what won him the title last time, which is just sit and kick. He, after all, clearly has one of the best kicks on the planet right now. He can outkick Olympic champions like Cole Hocker. He can outkick some of the best-known 5,000-meter kickers on the planet, like those guys' names. He can outkick everybody. Except for Andrew Koskinen, apparently, of Ireland. So Koskinen in the 3,000 sits while Fisher sits, and Koskinen had one strategy. Just wait till Fisher kicks and then beat him. And he did it. He just trailed Fisher the entire race and then outkicked him, which was really classy. And so he takes first place. Fisher takes second. He was right behind him. But as a result of that, Fisher's got work to do in the 5,000. Because now here's what happens. Second race, the 5,000. If Fisher wins and Koskinen gets second, he has to win by enough to beat him in the time tiebreaker, right? And he doesn't know what Koskinen's going to do in this 5,000. He could have a great day. So you can't play the gamble. So how does it unfold? What's the strategy?
Well, they still run slow for the first
2 miles.
2 miles.
Yeah, nobody wants to lead. Everyone just wants Grant Fisher to do all the work, and then he's just not willing because he's smart.
Well, because he doesn't need to. That's the thing, is that there are some athletes who need to go out and run hard because they're not going to win in a kick. So they need to run the legs out of their competitors. However, Grant Fisher, it's to his advantage usually to have the race go out conservatively and then kick with 1,000 to go, or maybe in this case a mile to go.
They have talked about what it means to be a champion. What does it take to be a champion? Like world class, you can win medals. which Grant Fisher has not done yet. He's been bronze medalist twice. Remember that?
In the same
games.
Olympics.
But what does it take to be a champion? And the answer to that is you need to be able to win every type of race. It doesn't mean that the championship races are going to be, most of the time, they're all the same.
Or get lucky like Matthew Centrowitz.
No.
That it was his kind of race.
Yeah, that wasn't lucky because Matthew Centrowitz has more medals in the 1500 than any other American in the modern era.
I'm not saying that he's... I didn't mean disrespect.
No,
that
but I mean the point is
disrespect. He wasn't the fastest
can win
guy.
races. No, you're right. He's not the fastest guy, but he can win races.
Yeah.
And that is where we find Grant Fisher today. This guy can win any way, or every way. And here's how he showed it. Because we know he can sit and kick, although he doesn't win every single time with that. But we know he can sit and kick. He's got a mean kick. We know he can run super fast. He's got the world indoor record in 2 different events. Like, this guy is fast. But here's what he did this time. He decided in order to demonstrate, or not demonstrate, in order to secure a guarantee that he was not going to be beat in this race, that with a mile to go, he put down the pedal, floored it, proceeded to run sub 4-minute mile pace for the rest of the race. So yes, he ran under 4 minutes for his last mile. And with such a decisive move that nobody even wanted to go with him. He basically turned a race of men into one man and a bunch of boys. Like, that's what it looked like. He just looked like he was on a different level than everybody else. Yeah. That was incredible. So Grant Fisher walked away with it. And as a consequence, defended his slam title, and now he's made $200,000 on the circuit thus far. What a champ. What a champ. Grant Fisher, then Koskinen, who finished 3rd in the 5,000, by the way. He didn't end up finishing 2nd because Cooper Teare got him in the end. Cooper Teare's got a mean kick, too. But Koskinen was still close. He ended up 2nd. Cooper Teare, 3rd, making some money. George Mills of Great Britain in 4th with a 3rd and a 7th finish. So you can see how things got scattered a lot in the men's distance. Cooper Teare was 4th and 2nd, and he still ended up 3rd overall. And so that's pretty impressive stuff. Ronald Quemoy of Kenya was 5th, and then Sam Atkin, DeWitt Sire, and Amon Kemboy for rounding it out. And once again, there were ties all over the place. So and this is what's fun, is like, you can win one race and lose another. You can finish high up in one race and really far back in another. And you got to be able to perform twice.
And it matters whether you're last or second to last. It matters by a large chunk of change. So
yeah,
everything matters in this race.
Right. And both of the guys who finished last in each race respectively ended up not finishing last overall in the standings because they had a better finish in the other event. So it's really fun stuff. All right, now let's talk about Shanghai Diamond League, and then we'll give you that comparison we promised, because it's a question of which would you enjoy watching more. And you just heard all the excitement, the Grand Slam. Shanghai Diamond League, there were 3 distance races total, 1 women's distance race, and it's not even a distance race; it's a middle distance race, the 800. And so there's not a lot for the distance runners to watch here, but it was still exciting.
Yeah, definitely exciting. Sige Daguma ended up running an Ethiopian record.
Major flex.
Yeah, an early season to be flexing like that, and a 156.64. It's also the Shanghai Diamond League record. Shanghai
is the newest installment in the Diamond League, so the records are a little bit fresh still, but
that's still fast.
That's fast. As a matter of fact, the whole entire race was fast because the top 8 women were all under 2 minutes.
I wonder if it was... Okay, PR for the next lady. Okay.
Yep.
Sarah Billings of Australia finished 2nd in a very strong personal best of 157.83. And then USA's Addie Wiley ended up 158.59 for 5th. I'm curious how that fares with her PR.
It's a little bit off of it, but...
It's within
to run 158 and change and be 5th is
at a Diamond League.
Very fast.
And she's still a new pro.
Right. Yes. So that was an exciting race. It was kind of just a time trial. They had the pace lights. They just went out, chased the lights, ran really fast. But fast is fun.
Fast is very fun.
And the men's 5,000, similarly, it was kind of the time trial type of deal. You got your pacer, you got your pace lights. They wanted to run under 13 minutes. They did it successfully. It was, in fact, the 3 Ethiopians working together who finished all within a second of each other.
All right.
And so Barry Huaragawi was the best of the countrymen this day.
Not surprisingly so, though.
He often is, yes. He ran 12:50, and then with him in 12:50 was Kuma Girma, and right behind them was Mezgebu Sime, just a half a second back. So then you ended up with 4 men under 13 minutes, and it's early season. I think 4 people running
Impressive.
under 13 in mid-May, early May is not bad.
Then the men's steeplechase, there was no Sufyan El Bakali,
Nope.
which is always sad because he's an entertainer, and I like to watch him race.
Well, he wins a lot.
He wins a lot.
But he was upset in the Diamond League opener. And so you wonder if he's just not quite in top form or if he's on his way sliding out.
Don't say that.
But either way, he hasn't been beaten much, but he was beat by Samuel Firewu last time.
At the last Diamond League.
Right.
Yeah.
So now the question is,
But wasn't there.
wide
Yeah.
open.
So I wonder why. Interesting.
Abraham Sime ended up winning this ragtag race. I say ragtag because there were falls, there were lost shoes.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of unpleasant things happening. As a matter of fact, it was Firewu who won the last Diamond League, whose shoe fell off. He didn't have like a nasty fall, but I think someone stepped on his heel and just clipped his shoe. He stopped and tried to put it back on, but it wasn't going. So then he just started running with only one shoe. And he
that's a
just spent the
painful
whole
race.
rest of the race grimacing.
I would imagine you could break your foot pretty easily doing
Yeah.
a steeple without your shoe on.
Yeah,
Yikes.
ask us how we know this, because we know people who have broken their feet in steeplechase.
Yeah. Steeplechase is already miserable. This actually sounds like a nightmare to me.
Yeah, well,
Like everyone's falling, their shoes are falling off, they can't get to the finish.
right. So, yeah, there was a lot of that going on. It was pretty brutal. And then Sime, who had some really strong running in the mid-race, was clearly tiring in the end, and he almost fell in the last barrier. He comes over it and stumbles a little, but he ended up holding on, and he won the race. His last jump was so bad that people who were quite a ways behind him almost like leapfrogged past him on the last barrier.
Wow.
But then he had just a little extra to accelerate up again and
Yikes.
hold them off. Yeah. Some of the other notables to watch, though, were second and third placers. You had Edmund Serum and Simon Koech, both who are currently likely to be top 3 in just about every race that they've run lately. So
Wow. Okay.
keep watching those names as well. All right. And that was it for the Diamond League distance races. Now the question, we already said it earlier, Grand Slam is way more entertaining. But is it a sustainable model? Diamond League isn't going anywhere. It's well established. Their format is compelling because they don't run every distance or every discipline at every meet. So the meets are not terribly long. They're about 2 hours long. And it's just a one-day thing. But Grand Slam is a multi-day format. You have one race is not just a one and done. You have to compete a couple of times. You get different kinds of race strategies. Diamond League is just run fast every time. That's all it is. Just pacers, pace lights, and everyone's trying to run fast. And whoever can be the fastest is going to win the race. I don't know. I think track and field is about more than just running fast times. As a matter of fact, I think that's the least important thing most of the time. I think it's about the competition. I think Grand Slam gets the spirit of the competition way better.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think that it's been valuable, and I know you're going to hate that I'm saying this, but I think it's been very valuable that they have been promoting the athletes so much. I like that they're really talking up the athletes. I think the thing that makes that important is that you get to know the players. So they have these like returning athletes. I liked that idea because if you have continuity and you have people that you become more familiar with because you're at each of the events, you have more stake in the game because you understand more. So the familiarity is a positive thing, but also I think it's also a level of respect. Like we respect these athletes, and so we're promoting them. We value them. We value them $100,000 much. So
someone does.
Someone does.
We're all wondering where that money's coming
do.
from.
I don't. But I do like that. I think that it elevates the athletes and it takes the sport more seriously. But then also, if you get to know the players and you care who's going to win, You see the points one day, you come back and watch to see who got the points the next day and who ends up being the overall winner. There's suspense, there's intrigue, there's surprise, upsets. Yeah.
Except for Sydney McLaughlin Lebroni.
You're right. She will win.
There are no
whatever.
surprises and no upsets. Do you know what she's doing in the next one?
No.
She's doing the short hurdles.
Oh.
She's doing the 100 hurdles and the 100-meter dash.
No way.
Does she win still?
I mean,
She doesn't run short hurdles.
I
ever.
don't know. I have no idea.
I don't think she's going to win.
I wonder how that came about. Because she doesn't like to
She
run things
is
when she's not
playing the
time
game, Andy.
form.
She's
Yeah.
playing the game of track and
But
field.
isn't she supposed to be one of the ones that returns every time? Like
Yeah, but I don't think the contract required the athlete to return in the same discipline every time.
Okay. Well, maybe there
But
was some
also, she
conversation.
can probably just write her own contract. She is
she is
Sydney McLaughlin Lebroni.
the star of the century.
Well, that's now you know our opinion.
Yeah.
We like Grand Slam
Yeah,
way
we
more than Diamond League.
And remember, it's on Peacock, which is more accessible than
Yep.
some of the other formats that we've seen track and field in.
Yeah, which shall not be named. But here's the thing: I don't want Diamond League to go anywhere, though.
No.
it's not one of those where like Diamond League should do what Grand Slam is doing.
Right.
It's good to have both.
I agree.
It is. Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about a couple more side details. There's just other things happening.
More championships, for instance,
Right.
U.S. championships.
We've got the road circuit. We've been updating you on this. It's always exciting. The road circuit is 9 or so events. It depends. The women's, there's 10. The men's, there's 9 this year. Sometimes it's 11. It just, it depends. And so the road circuit is about midway through right now, a little over halfway. And so we wanted to kind of keep you posted on that. There was the 5K and the 25K in the last couple weeks. They were back-to-back weeks. Most interestingly, you had Casey Klinger running both. And so he was the only one in terms of the top-tier athletes who showed up at both, which was kind of fun. But on the men's side, it was Alan Hacker who took the victory over Casey Klinger
In the 5K. Mm-hmm.
and Ahmed Muhammad in third. And on the women's side, it was OAC's Josette Andrews over Bailey Hertenstein and Courtney Frericks.
Yeah.
Did you know she still runs?
Previous podcast guest. Loved that episode with her. So take a listen sometime.
Olympic medalist in the
Olympic
steeplechase.
medalist. Yes.
U.S. record holder.
She's remember the U.S. championship, or not U.S. championships, the World Championships that she also crushed it in.
Yeah, she's got two medals. So Frericks was like king of the steeple for a short bit, and then injuries and stuff, and she just disappeared. And now suddenly she shows up in the USATF 5K Road Championships.
Seems like a great place to enter.
I don't know. I
think it's
just
great.
wonder. I wonder what she's up to.
What is she up to?
And the 25K, which was close to home for us, was also very exciting. On the men's side, 3 men broke the U.S. record. 3. And their U.S. record was set only last year by Diego Estrada.
Who we also had on the podcast.
We did.
And that was a fabulous conversation.
What a conversation. Well, we've got actually some other podcast guests in this race too, because top 3 were none other than Casey Klinger in his debut at the distance. Actually, Casey Klinger had never run a race longer than 10,000 meters prior to this event.
Okay.
And then he set a U.S. record.
Wow.
I don't know what to think about that.
So he skipped half marathon.
Casey Klinger is coached by the same man who coaches Connor Mance and Clayton Young, and ran in the same college that they did. And so there's
How about Kenneth Rooks?
same. Yep, same.
Yeah.
So there's some special juice in the water at BYU, and Klinger recently graduating. Now he's on the pro scene and he's doing well at it for surely. He ran about a minute faster than Estrada's record. And then behind him in second and third were Joe Klecker and Hillary Bohr, who also bested Estrada's record. And for those of you keeping track of a 25K time, Klinger's new record now is 1:12:15.
Okay.
1:12.
Hillary Bohr is also a previous podcast guest, I guess, if we're keeping track.
I said there were a lot of them. Carrie Elwood won the women's race in a new American record as well. 7 seconds under Betsy Sena's 2024 time.
Okay.
Although she did not have quite as much company as those others.
Sena was accompanied by, if I remember correctly, Kira D'Amato. They were running,
Was
duking
that the
it
year
out.
when they?
I think. Am I right on that?
Well, Santa's won twice in a row.
Okay,
and
so
I don't
maybe it was
recall
the time
which
before
year.
that. But Betsy Santa's also been on the podcast.
Right. Well, talking about Zuhair Talbi as well.
Who has been on the podcast?
Because he was also in the race. And Talbi, and this is what's interesting. You're going to say Zuhair Talbi, he was in the USA 25K championships? Because he's Moroccan.
He's Moroccan, yeah.
But he put in his application to change allegiance. He's not being a Moroccan. I don't know how this works, but he is going to compete for the United States because
That's where he lives.
Yes, he has lived here for quite some time. And so he cannot set records yet. He cannot compete at global championships yet, but he can run in the U.S. road circuit. That's kind of how that works.
All right.
Once you have started the process, you're able to.
Welcome, Zuhair Talbi. We're glad to have you representing the United States.
Right on. Standings now sit at 6 races in, and we've got on the women's side 10 events total, so 4 more races to go. Carrie Elwood now leads after this victory. She's got 38 points. Remember, Taylor Rowe has just been dominating, but Rowe did not run this race. If she did,
got to come to Grand Rapids if you want to be a winner.
Yep. So Carrie Elwood's got 38 over Taylor Rowe's 30, and Emma Grace Hurley in third with 24. And they are all heads and shoulders above anyone else.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
Good chance that it's one of those 3 that ends up winning it if they run a couple more of the events. And interestingly enough, too, Carrie Elwood and Taylor Rowe are the only 2 women who have won more than one title on the circuit.
Okay.
They've each won 2. And that means that only 2 other people have won titles.
One of them being the 5K.
Yeah. In the men's, there's actually a 3-way tie for first.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Right, it is very exciting. 6 races in, and there's a 3-way tie between Alex Mayer, Hillary Bohr, and Casey Klinger.
Okay.
And I don't really know what Casey Klinger's plans are at this point. Hillary Bohr won the circuit last year, and you know he's going to keep running the circuit races. Yeah. And so if he can just war of attrition here, just run more of the races than everyone else, there's a good chance he's going to win this one too.
Because he's always top 3.
Well, that's basically it.
He is a podium guy.
3, yeah.
He's always on the podium.
But he hasn't won a single one. And so it just tells you, you don't have to win the race. You just have to show up consistently.
And be a versatile runner, which Hillary Bohr is. And I think that it's a testament to his premier event, at least previously, which has been the steeplechase, which creates adaptable runners, I think.
Yeah, true that. So behind those 3, you have Joe Klecker, who is in 4th, and Alan Hacker in 5th, and they both have 20 and 19 points respectively. And so it's really tight up at the top tier, top standings for the men's circuit, and that's going to be exciting as the next 3 races. So the women have 1 more race than the men this year. They're running a 6K championship.
Oh, right.
The men are not.
That's really weird.
I don't really know, but that's how it goes.
They have 1 more extra race.
And last year it was like 11 races. Huh. All right, so whatever. But the next one is in June for both the men and the women, the 4-mile championship. So we got that coming up.
4 mile.
All right. Last but not least, there's a little bit of some of our mixed bag oddities, tragedies and strangenesses.
Yeah.
So Rajpal Panu, which may not be a familiar name to you unless you watch things like the USATF 100-mile championships.
Which we know some of you do.
Yes,
I personally know some that would watch that.
He won the race and then was DQ'd for having too big of shoes.
Okay, so you got to clarify. What does that mean?
Stack height.
Oh,
remember, your shoes can only be 40 millimeters. World Athletics has said 40 millimeters or you're out. And that basically counts for anything that is a sanctioned or certified event. Now, of course, a U.S. championship naturally is a sanctioned and certified event. But his shoes, so he did not know this. He's wearing a new shoe from Hoka because he's sponsored by Hoka. They asked him to wear the shoe. Turns out the shoe is illegal.
Oh,
so they got him
DQ'd.
He didn't even have a clue. And it's actually quite a bit. It's like 8 or 10 millimeters above the stack height limit. And
I feel
so
bad
Hoka did end up paying him
I'm glad.
for the winnings that he would have made.
I feel like that is the right thing to do because they're, and I hope more than what the winnings were. And because the pride of winning, you can't put a price tag on that.
Well,
especially your first ever U.S. championship. If it is, I think it is.
I do not know. But
that's wild.
That's wild and tragic.
It
and
is tragic.
The weirdest part is that according to the Wall Street Journal article where they were looking into this a little bit more, a lot of companies are doing this, making shoes that are actually illegal, knowingly illegal.
What?
Because their thinking is the everyday runner loves these shoes because they're so plush, they're so springy, they're so cushy. But the pros now have to be extra careful because you can't just buy a shoe and trust that it actually is a wearable shoe.
What I find perplexing is that usually in these scenarios, at least the ones that you and I have been part of, they check your shoes prior to the event. So why were they checking it in retrospect?
This is one of those that the ultra championships are not quite as like strict and rigid of an experience. So I'm guessing it was one of those things where there was some amount of checking of things, but they weren't like measuring everything. And so in any event, I think the reason he got DQ'd is because someone noticed the shoe that he was wearing and was like, hey, that shoe is new from Hoka and I think it's not legal.
Well, and if there's advantage to it over 100 miles, that amplifies the amount that you're getting aided.
Well, it's sparing your joints a lot of trauma with that extra. I mean, it's 20% more cushioning. That's serious. So there you go. Now, let's go do a positive one.
Yeah.
Alex Meyer. We talked about him on the road circuit. Sure. Good stuff going on. He set the U.S. record in the 10 mile. He won the half. He just won the Dusseldorf Marathon, which is significant because it's the first time an American has won a European marathon in years.
All right.
That's cool.
Let's go, Alex.
He ran 2:08:33. Very impressive performance. It was like a 3-minute PR.
Okay. Yep. That's a place to do it. And for the W?
Not bad at all.
Sounds like a good day.
It is. We're excited about that. Okay. One more positive, and then we'll end on a weird note. 4 days after setting the U.S. road mile record, remember when Chrissy Gear did that, she ran another mile, this time on the track at Drake Relays, and ran almost the exact same time to break a 50-year-old Drake Relays record.
Wow.
Beating out the exact same people that she beat in the road mile, Carissa Schweitzer and Shelby Houlihan.
I don't know why, but I have, since I was aware of Chrissy Gear, thought that she was a really cool athlete. And the reason she did the steeplechase and just... I listened to an interview with her, and I just felt like her brain...
she's just offbeat.
But she also just, like, really works hard and is smart about it and has, like, progressed, like, through the years. And I just really appreciate it. I don't know. There's something about her that makes me want her to win.
Okay. We'll take it. We will take it. All right. Well, there's so many more things we could talk about, but we'll end with this. The Arizona State High School track and field meet had one of the weirdest things happen that I have heard of in a long time. They had the 3,200 meters at the end of the meet. It's just the second to last event, essentially, for the boys' race. And they're lining up, and the official comes up and points at these 6 boys and says, "You're out. DQ'd." They didn't check in properly. And so they didn't let them race. But the boys were like, no, we did check in. What are you talking about? Like, we know. Well, how are you supposed to check in? Here's what you're supposed to do. We did that. And so now the officials, seconds before the race, there's no time to, like, appeal this or anything. They're like, no, you're out. You can't run. And so then a whole bunch of other boys, including last year's state champion, defending champion, didn't run in protest. They're like, no, you can't do that. We're not going to have a race. Well, they're like, you are going to have a race, and if you don't want to run, that's on you. And so then like 9 or 10 boys don't run. So you've got like 6 people in the state final. They run it. They declare a state champion. And then the race officials go, oops, you're right. Actually, you did check in properly. It was our fault. But they had already not let them run the race. So then they say, okay, there's a whole bunch of appealing and stuff. Coaches are up in arms. So then they're like, okay, those 6 boys, they can run another heat at the end of the meet, which was like half an hour later. Okay, you guys can run. Sure. And they're like, well, but it's not a race anymore because those other people, we can't run against them. Some of the coaches from the boys who ran the first heat were like, well, can our boys just run again a half an hour later and at least try to race each other? And they're like, no, only the 6. And it's like, well, what about the boys who didn't run in protest? No, they're not allowed to.
What?
So including the defending state champion, they just were like, you're out. We don't care. and let those other 6 boys run. They said it's not going to actually count for anything. They're just going to declare the results from the first heat, but we'll still let you run. And then the next day, the results show up, and one of the kids in the second heat's declared the state champion. And now everyone's confused. Nobody knows what to think.
Aww.
The officials were just basically like, whoops, who cares? And someone's life is just like screwed up from this, and I have no idea what to think about it.
Well, I just think it's interesting because in track and fields, at least on the global scale, you can run and protest. So like if you're DQ'd prior to a race, you still can race. And then if things are sorted out later, then your results can count because you ran the race.
That's what everyone on the message board said. They're like,
I didn't read the message boards. But
why
apparently...
the heck did they not just say, well, okay, just run and we'll figure it out later?
Right.
But no, seconds, but like they're on the start line and they're like, no. You go. And now for the rest of the kids, it's like, what just happened? Like now we're all in a weird state of mind.
I feel bad for the kids who like didn't know what was going on and ran the race anyway. And like, I feel bad for all of them.
And then the kid who won and thinks he just won a state title. And then the next day finds out he didn't, which is confusing because they already gave him the award.
That's terrible.
Oh,
That's
man.
Terrible.
It's weird.
But I think there'll be a lot of learning that happens from this unfortunate circumstance. And hopefully all the state meets across the country can figure out what they will do next in that kind of situation.
You hope there was an after-action review for these officials that's like, okay, what did we do wrong here? What do we make sure we don't do?
I tell you what, I appreciate them so much. They put so much effort in. There's no way that they're getting out of it what they're putting into it. So I do like
they don't
a lot
get
of them
anything
are volunteers.
Out of it most of the time,
yeah, a lot of them are volunteers and doing it out of the goodness of their heart. So
but don't be so sure that you're right. That you ruin someone's running career.
Especially when it's a state meet. It's like you really should be sure about these things.
Yeah. Well, that was pretty crazy stuff.
Before we get to our game, we do have a few A to Z runner updates. Please continue listening because it's going to be a riveting game with chat
AI
GPT.
trivia coming shortly. All right. Quick shout outs to some A to Z runners doing amazing things. Drew ran a PR at the Glass City Marathon. Actually, he tied his PR to the second.
Wow. In
the marathon. That's always a little bit disappointing because it's like, why couldn't I just jump across the line and get an extra
But
second?
Also really impressive.
Very impressive, Drew. And Drew has run 2 PRs in his life, 2 marathons in his life, and they're both the exact same time. Bill and Laura both ran the London Marathon. Laura was pacing, and Bill nearly ran a personal best himself, which is exciting. Craig was 3rd age group in the Lincoln Marathon. And then we have the Riverbank Run, which is a local big deal. We just mentioned the 25K championships, which is at the Riverbank Run. They also do a 5K and a 10K, and we had people doing it all.
Yes, we did. 5K, we had Jessica, Martha, and Mary, who was 2nd in age group. And Dave did the walk with a family member to spend some quality time. Always love to shout that out, too.
In the 10K, Justin finished 1st in his age group, and Brian was 2nd in the same age group. And
guys.
Nice job, guys. But, man, run different events so we can get – you don't have to compete – no, I'm kidding. You don't have to compete against each other. No, they both ran great. It's awesome.
Awesome. Just so
I don't think I mentioned it. Justin also ran a personal best. In
the
25K.
Got a lot in the 25K.
It was exciting. Andrew helped with some pacing duties. CJ ran a 5-minute personal best. Dan was 2nd in his age group in his 40th Riverbank Run. That's right. He's run this event 40 times. How many times has the event been run overall? 48. So he's run all but 8 of them.
Wow. That's amazing. 40th. Wow.
Congrats, Dan. That's so exciting. Aaron ran a personal best. Jared and Joe ran strong races. Laura ran a personal best and 3rd in her age group. Lorenda, in her debut, ran well. So it's a personal best because it's a debut.
Too, yeah.
Ran very well. That is the longest race that Lorenda has ever run, correct? No, she did her marathon debut.
Yeah, she did marathon.
I keep missaying that. Lorenda ran a marathon last fall. Okay, Sarah was just running easy this time.
She ran really strong, actually.
She ran
strong, but pivoted and had a great experience and was able to finish strong, too. We always like to see that.
Right. And Violet and Zach ran some strong races also. So that's the crew for the Riverbank Run. Very exciting stuff. AtoZ Runners doing amazing things. We've got a fun stat for you. Thus far, in this year, what percent of races run by AtoZ Runners have been personal best times? The answer is over 20%.
Wow.
1 in 5, actually it's a little higher than 1 in 5, have been personal best times.
And that's out of a lot of racing that is not even for peak performance.
Yeah, about 70 races.
Racing throughout the season.
So if you want to run a personal best time, all you have to do is be an
There's
AtoZ
no
runner.
guarantees there, but
Sign
I
up
have
for
to
coaching
say,
with
our
AtoZ
trajectory, our trend line for all of our athletes.
It's good stuff. It's
Yeah.
lots of fun. We've thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's really not us doing the, it's them
Doing the
doing
work.
the amazing stuff.
Yep.
We just give them some suggestions on occasion.
Well,
So
we write them training plans and support them.
yeah, that's what I meant. So what we're going to do next, as promised, is we're going to talk to the AI about Eliud Kipchoge. And we ask for a multiple choice question of trivia. And sometimes the AI doesn't quite get it right, so we have to remind it of what the rules are. And then we try to guess the correct answer. Right now, Andy has 3 points. Zach has 4. We'll do a couple of these, and you play along. See if you can get the correct answer as well, and then keep track of your score and let us know how you're doing, because it's just so much fun. All right, let's get it started here. Hey, chat. We are back on with our audience for another game of running trivia. Go ahead and say hello to the audience.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another round of running trivia. I'm pumped to be here with you. Let's have some fun and see who's got the fastest brain on the course.
Wow, you are a savvy AI chatbot, aren't you? All right, so here's our topic for today, and I'll remind you of the rules. Our topic this time is going to be the individual runner, Eliud Kipchoge of Kenya. And what we would like you to do is give us, we'll just do one at a time, give us a trivia question about Eliud Kipchoge, whatever you want to make it, and give us 4 multiple choice answers, one of them being the correct answer. And then we will guess it and see which one is correct. Go ahead.
Love it. Eliud Kipchoge, the GOAT of marathoning. All right, here's your first question. In which Olympic Games did Eliud Kipchoge win his first gold medal in the marathon? 1. Beijing 2008, 2. London 2012, 3. Rio de Janeiro 2016, 4. Tokyo 2020. What's your guess?
What's your guess, Andy? 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you have it? Oh, no, you weren't supposed to hold it up yet. Okay, our guess, we guessed the same. Our guess is, what games was that? London? Or did you guess?
3.
You
guessed
guessed
3.
Rio, and I'm guessing London. All right, what's the correct answer?
The correct answer is number 3, Rio de Janeiro 2016.
Woo!
That was Kipchoge's first Olympic marathon gold. Nice try, both of you. Want another one?
Yes, we do. Go ahead.
All right. Here's your next question. Eliud Kipchoge famously broke the 2-hour barrier for the marathon in a special event. What was the name of that event? 1. Breaking 2. 2. Ineos 1-hour challenge. 3. Ineos 1:59 challenge. 4. Nike Sub 2 project. What's your guess?
Oh, you don't know, do you? You got to go 1, 2, 3, or 4. Are you ready with your fingers? Ready, set, go. Oh, no. Was it the Breaking 2 or was it the Ineos 1:59 challenge? Okay, chat, what was the answer?
The correct answer is number 3. The Ineos 1:59 challenge. That's where Kipchoge ran 1:59.40. Breaking 2 was earlier, but he didn't go under 2 hours that time.
Okay.
Great guessing. Want to keep going?
We're going to do one more, but hold on just a second because we want to talk about it. So
I do remember.
You do remember now.
I do.
Okay.
I knew because the thing though, the Ineos are their sponsor.
Yeah.
I recognize that, but I'm like, I really think it's called Breaking 2, but
It was.
because there's a different one.
The first one.
Okay.
And now they're doing Breaking 4, which is a different thing. Remember with Faith Kipyegon?
Oh,
And, yeah.
right.
Okay, so this current score now is Andy has 4 points, Zach has 5, so Andy's got a chance to tie it up here before we're done for the round today. All right, chat, give us one more question.
Oh, this is heating up. All right, here's your final question of the round. What was Eliud Kipchoge's winning time when he set the official marathon world record at the Berlin Marathon in 2018? 1, 2 hours, 1 minute, 39 seconds. 2, 2 hours, 1 minute, 9 seconds. 3, 2 hours, 2 minutes, 57 seconds. 4, 2 hours flat. What's your guess?
Can you remind us of what year you're talking about in the Berlin Marathon?
Yep, this was the Berlin Marathon in 2018. Kipchoge's official world record that stood for several years. Want me to repeat the answer choices?
Yes.
Yeah, repeat the choices, please.
Absolutely. Here are your choices. 1, 2 hours, 1 minute, 39 seconds. 2, 2 hours, 1 minute, 9 seconds. 3, 2 hours, 2 minutes, 57 seconds. 4, 2 hours flat. All right, ready when you are.
Ready, set, go. Oh, we both guessed the same answer. Okay, we guessed number 1, 2 hours, 1 minute, and 39 seconds. What was correct?
You nailed it. The correct answer is number 1. 2 hours, 1 minute, and 39 seconds. That was his stunning performance in Berlin 2018.
It
Well
was.
done.
You were very tricky there because the second option, 2 hours, 1 minute, and 9 seconds, is the second time he broke the world record, also in Berlin, but it was in the year 2023, correct?
You've got a sharp memory, but just a slight mix-up.
Oh.
The 2023 Berlin world record wasn't Kipchoge's. It was actually Kelvin Kiptum, who ran 2 hours and 35 seconds in Chicago. Kipchoge's second Berlin win after 2018 wasn't a world record, but still blazing fast.
All right. You're being too kind. I didn't remember it correctly at all. Okay, well, thank you. Go ahead and say goodbye to the audience.
You got it. Thanks for playing, everyone. It's been a blast. Keep running smart and having fun out there.
What a savvy, witty guy, the chat, not a guy. Hey, by the way, they have now discovered that people saying greetings and things like thank you to AI chatbots is costing upwards of millions of dollars to these companies in the data processing time that it takes for all the times people say thank you to the chatbot. So don't. Their answer is don't be polite. This is a robot. But then in the same token, if we start being rude to our robots, are we going to be more rude to our humans?
Maybe. It's conditioning.
So I just say be polite, even if it's a robot, and we won't have iRobot issues, happening to us in the near future.
Well, I do want to remind you all that we will have content. We apologize for the delay on this content coming your way shortly. As you know, if you listen to this podcast, we do episodes that have World of Running news as well as content that helps runners thrive. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week.